tiny owl stops police patrol. What the officer sees next brings tears to her eyes. Officer Sarah Reynolds received an unusual call about a tiny owl blocking traffic on a highway. At first, she assumed it was just a minor incident, perhaps a confused bird on the road. But as she approached the scene, she quickly realized this was no ordinary situation. A tiny owl stood defiantly in the middle of the road, aggressively flapping its wings and even attacking oncoming vehicles, as if determined to hold its ground at any cost. As Sarah stepped out of her patrol car, she immediately noticed that the bird's behavior wasn't random. The owl wasn't acting out of fear or confusion. It had a purpose. When she cautiously moved closer, she expected the owl to fly away. Instead, it landed directly on her outstretched arm. That's when she saw it. Something unusual was attached to the bird's leg. A metallic band with a deep blue round object securely fastened to it. Traffic was backing up, and frustrated drivers began stepping out of their cars. One of them, a trucker named Ray, approached and shook his head. "That little thing's been at it for an hour now, officer. Nearly made me swerve off the road." But Sarah barely heard him. Her attention was fully on the owl, which was gripping her wrist as if pleading for help. This wasn't just an animal in distress. The bird was leading her somewhere. At that moment, the owl spread its wings, flew to a nearby road sign, and turned to face Sarah. Its golden eyes locked onto hers. A silent command was clear in its gaze. "Follow me." Without hesitation, Sarah reached for her radio. "Dispatch, this is Officer Reynolds. I need a wildlife expert and possibly a search team at my location. Something much bigger is happening here." Sarah stood at the side of the road while the owl remained perched on the sign, its golden eyes locked onto hers with unwavering intensity. The situation felt more surreal by the second. In all her years as a police officer, she had encountered plenty of strange cases, but this was different. This wasn't just an animal displaying unusual behavior. It felt as if the owl was trying to tell her something. Moments later, Dr. Stephen Mitchell, a seasoned wildlife expert, arrived. As he stepped out of his vehicle, he initially wore a faint smirk until his gaze landed on the owl. Instantly, his expression darkened. Sarah motioned toward the metallic band on the bird's leg. "Look at this." Dr. Mitchell carefully examined the small blue object attached to the owl. The moment he turned it in his hands, his entire demeanor changed. "This isn't just a tag," he muttered. "It's a trail marker, just like the ones hikers use when they're in trouble." A chill ran down Sarah's spine. Someone had deliberately placed this marker on the owl, hoping it would lead someone to them. She immediately reached for her radio. "Dispatch, this is Officer Reynolds. I need an urgent check on any missing persons reported in the area." Minutes later, a voice crackled through the radio. "Officer Reynolds, we have a match. Robert Langley, 32, an experienced hiker, has been missing for over a week. His last known location was near the Northwood Trail." Sarah's pulse quickened. The Northwood Trail, one of the most treacherous hiking paths, was only a few meters away. Before she could react, the owl let out a sharp, piercing cry and darted toward the dense forest. But it didn't disappear into the night. It flew ahead just enough, then stopped, hovering in place. It was waiting for them. Sarah and Dr. Mitchell exchanged a knowing glance. Without another word, they plunged into the dark forest, following the tiny owl into the unknown. Every second counted. As Sarah and Dr. Mitchell stepped deeper into the dense forest, the distant hum of the highway faded into an eerie silence. The thick canopy above allowed only thin slivers of moonlight to pierce through, casting ghostly shadows on the forest floor. Ahead of them, the owl fluttered silently, landing on a low-hanging branch, as if waiting for them. Then, without a sound, it took flight again, disappearing further into the darkness. Sarah and Dr. Mitchell followed cautiously, their footsteps muffled by the damp earth. With each step, unsettling clues began to emerge. A single boot print embedded in the dirt, deep scratches in the bark of a tree, unmistakably left by a knife. Dr. Mitchell ran his fingers over the markings, his face tense. "These are fresh. He was here. A branch snapped somewhere in the distance. Sarah's hand shot instinctively to her firearm, her body tensing. But then, it was just the owl. The tiny creature swooped down, landing atop a pile of overturned rocks. Then, it let out a sharp, almost desperate cry. Sarah and Dr. Mitchell rushed forward, their flashlight beams cutting through the darkness. And then they saw it. A torn backpack, half buried in the dirt. Sarah crouched down, carefully pulling it free. The fabric was damp, the zippers rusted from exposure. Something slipped out, a folded piece of paper. With trembling fingers, she unfolded it. The ink was smudged, but the message was still readable. "If someone finds this, I'm hurt. I can't move. Northwood Trail, near the cliffs. Please." Sarah's throat tightened. "He's alive." Dr. Mitchell lifted his gaze toward the silhouette of a distant ridge, where jagged cliffs loomed under the moonlit sky. "That's where we need to go." As if confirming their next step, the owl took flight once more, disappearing into the thick trees ahead. Sarah inhaled deeply, then met Dr. Mitchell's determined gaze. "There's no turning back now. Let's go find him." With that, they pressed forward, toward the cliffs, where every passing second could mean the difference between life and death. The climb to the cliffs was treacherous, the slick terrain making every step a risk. The wind howled through the trees, carrying an eerie stillness, as Sarah and Dr. Mitchell pushed forward through the unforgiving landscape. The only guidance they had were the distant cries of the owl echoing through the night. Finally, they reached a narrow crevice hidden between jagged rock formations. The owl flapped wildly, letting out a piercing cry before swooping into the darkness below. Sarah's heart pounded. This was it. This was where they would find Robert. Their flashlights sliced through the cave's shadows, illuminating a frail, motionless figure slumped against the cold rock wall. "Robert!" Sarah rushed forward, kneeling beside him. His face was gaunt, his lips cracked and dry, his breathing shallow. But when her voice reached him, his eyelids fluttered open, revealing a pair of sunken, desperate eyes. You came." His voice was barely a whisper, filled with exhaustion and disbelief. Dr. Mitchell was already checking his vitals, his expression shifting to relief. "He's weak, but he's alive." Robert tried to move but winced in pain. His gaze shifted, landing on the tiny owl that now sat watching silently from the cave's entrance. A weak smile tugged at his lips. You really did it, little one." With a shaky breath, Robert began to explain how he had found the owl days before his fall. She had followed him everywhere, as if she knew he needed a friend. And when he slipped and was unable to move, he had tied the marker to her leg, hoping someone would notice. "She saved my life," he whispered. Sarah felt a lump rise in her throat as the tiny owl fluffed her feathers, tilting her head as if satisfied with her mission. Minutes later, the rescue team arrived, wrapping Robert in warm blankets and preparing the descent. The owl remained perched on a rock, watching in silence. Then, as if sensing her job was done, she let out one last clear cry, spread her wings, and vanished into the night. The story of the owl's bravery spread quickly, capturing hearts across the country. But for Sarah, Robert, and Dr. Mitchell, it was more than just an incredible tale. It was proof that even the smallest creatures can possess the greatest courage. And somewhere, high above the endless canopy of Northwood Forest, a golden-eyed guardian still soared, waiting for the next soul in need. Do you believe that a tiny bird could save a life? Share your thoughts in the comments. If this story touched your heart, give this video a like, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell for more unbelievable real-life stories that prove the world is full of wonders.